Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. So here we were, it was a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I can't remember, all getting excited, well, maybe not excited, but just, I guess, being amused by Elon's proposed takeover of Twitter, and it was a done deal according to all the media outlets. And now, shock horror, what's happened? He's decided to pull the plug on it because he's not satisfied with the whole deal. So I actually just wanted to touch on this quickly because we talked about it a while back. I actually didn't think this was all that surprising, because Elon, he could shift anyway randomly without notice. And who knows if this was just an excuse. He kind of telegraphed it a little while ago because he was not happy with, spam and bots and all that sort of stuff on Twitter. And I don't know, was it all just a big publicity stunt? Who knows?
Well, it was his get out of jail card. Remember, he did make a bid at the top of the market, and then just a few weeks after that, things were looking decidedly down, and he came out very quickly back then on the spam bot issue, and that's his way out. But geez, just more broadly, it doesn't say much for Twitter if they have, if their traffic is mostly spam bots.
Absolutely. I guess one other thing to point out is that the Twitter board weren't terribly happy with this, and they're going to fight it. I mean, this is the age we're living in. It's like he doesn't want to buy, and they want to fight it. Anyway, whatever. We'll see how it plays out. It'll be amusing to watch. Let's just put it that way.
You can say that again.
We're going to talk about social media in the context of this next story, but obviously a couple of weeks ago we talked about WWDC, the launch of the M2. The new MacBook Air is now available to order. Shipping times are already slipping. Apparently, it takes about a month to get one now. The new MacBook Pro with the M2 chips in. But I did want to highlight this sort of controversy that apparently sprung up after the M2 MacBook Pro was released, and the YouTube guys went out and started doing their benchmarking and whatever, and I think it's a highlight of the issue with social media and picking clickbaity headlines to drive traffic. And this story was like a really great example of how it can do a massive disservice to the public who doesn't know any better. They're trying to get information on, what's the best version of this? Should I buy, or should I wait for should I buy the Pro? Or should I wait for the Air to come out a couple of weeks later? And so, in the nutshell, it was a couple of things. It was, the big one was about the SSDs in the base model 13-inch MacBook Pro were half the speed of the previous generation of the M1, and tangential to that, there was the M2 was apparently running too hot and blasting the fans out under certain load conditions, and it was all. What I thought was interesting was that it was done by a channel that I watch a lot. I won't name them, but I do watch them a lot. They're actually pretty good most of the time, and they actually copped a bit of heat on this from not only other YouTubers, but also just the general media and also reactions, because they overplayed it. When you're putting titles on like why the M2 has failed, serious overheating issues with the new M2, all that sort of stuff, like immediately you're going to be drawn to a title like that, and it could skew your perception of what product to buy if you're in the market for buying one of these things. And they're great machines. Nothing's changed. Like if you think of compared to an Intel Mac, it smokes it, not literally, but they're great machines. They'll do exactly what you need. And if you're buying the base model, you're not going to be editing 8K projects on the go. You're likely to be using it for email, internet, web browsing, documents, all that sort of stuff, which for the M2 is like the M1 before it, is overkill for those types of tasks and will definitely not kill the machine. And I was annoyed by it because, and I appreciate the irony that we're producing content right now at the moment too, but it's kind of a dilution of quality content when this happens, because you're being driven, the content creator in this case is being driven by an algorithm to generate clicks, rather than providing the actual service to the public. So maybe they could have said that these things are an issue, but in a more moderate way, in context of how good the rest of it is.
Oh, look, I think this is probably the one thing that, modern media has taken from traditional media, which is the time-tested, protocol of, if it's a slow news day, make it up. And they have made it up. They've made up a story that really doesn't matter. I mean, I guess conversely, the other way to go clickbait was, how lucky are you to be cutting 8K video on a $2,000 machine? So, it's unbelievable that anyone would even attempt 8K video. If you'd told anyone that before, they wouldn't have believed it. So
it's that whole
pardon me. I think it's
that whole negativity bias that the algorithms are generating. And I just would have thought that if you're going to be doing some decent coverage of this sort of stuff as a YouTube content creator, in this case is subbing for a tech journalist, and really they should be providing the information of what, calling out legitimate things and all that sort of stuff, but not sensationalizing it to get more views.
Just remember, though, in traditional media, entertainment is allowed to do what it likes. It's not scientific. It's not journalism. It's just there for fun. And I don't agree. Like you, I don't agree with that sort of tactic, but that's what people do these days. And wow, doesn't it work?
I guess we might come back to that as a whole other topic on its own. That sort of convergence between entertainment, like you said, and sort of like more journalist type material, where there's a lot of blurring going on, and unfortunately Joe Public is not going to be able to discern the difference, because they're just trying to find the information. And that's actually another interesting topic to go down. All right, we've got a couple of other topics for today. I enjoyed this one about the environmental impacts of a credit card. So we've got this study of 64% of Americans wanting a credit card that lessens their environmental impact. And I read that and thought, does that even make sense? And at first I thought, what is it that they're talking about? So there was a component of this where, the actual physical construction of the credit card needed, I guess the card itself has to be made out of recyclable materials. But then I'm thinking, aren't we in a world now, for the most part, particularly, I guess, in the developed world, we're using our phones to pay for things now, it's like an electronic card. So it didn't make sense to me. But then, and I'm sure there's lots of people still using cards, but I didn't think that was the biggest. I don't know what sort of environmental impact could be there. I mean, it's always good to use sustainable material and whatever, but then there's this other thing about carbon offsetting every purchase. And I was like, where are companies going to, like, where's MasterCard or Visa going to do that? What are they going to donate? They probably could, in terms of from their profit, but are they seriously thinking that there's going to be an altruistic motive behind that to
there's no altruistic motive. I'm highly cynical of this. This is effectively a very clever scheme to effectively take a percentage of carbon offsets. Look, if carbon offsets really work, that'd be great. But if people are just going to use carbon offsets to make money, that's not really that environmental at the end of the day either. So, the old thing, do a survey, find that 64% of people want, like a better environment, and then find a new way to charge them for it.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other funny thing about it is that, if you want to do something for the environment, then you have to do something a bit more direct rather than ticking a box and hoping that something happens on the other end. Who the hell knows if anything happens?
Well, that's right. Do carbon offsets merely shift the problem, or do they solve the problem? I don't think anyone really knows yet. And I certainly don't think setting up a company that takes a percentage from every time you try and buy a carbon offset solves anything either.
Exactly. All right, we've got one last topic, environmental again, but I think a bit better this time. I just thought this was a rather interesting sort of initiative here about SSE Renewables, Microsoft and Avanade, I think it's called, are creating digital twins that could reshape wind farms and the environment around them. And the crux of it is developing, I guess, a virtual version of an environment where a wind farm is, recreating it digitally, and then I guess projecting out potential impacts on the surrounding ecosystem in a virtual environment, which would be, it wouldn't directly impact the either the ecosystem or the wind turbine on its own, the physical one. And it kind of feels to me like a sort of virtual reality type sort of checking mechanism, like a really good application of how you can use that kind of technology to it's like you're simulating something real to then determine what changes may need to be made in the actual real world example of it.
That's right. Digital twins are all the rage at the moment, and effectively all they are just digital data used to simulate a whole range of conditions. So if you understand, I guess, the dynamics of, say, in this case, a wind farm, but it could be, a closed environment like a greenhouse, or it could be another closed environment like a communications network. With a digital twin, you can simulate loads, variances, and changes within these environments and basically predict what the most efficient or optimized outcome is. So that's why they're all the rage. And I mean, we even have digital twins now for biological systems, which could be environmental conditions on the ground for crops or even natural vegetation. Right through to physiology for human bodies.
Yeah, it's a wonderful kind of deployment of the technology, I guess, and I guess maybe something, I guess with anything virtual related, it immediately goes to the Ready Player One stuff or whatever, but it also sort of highlights that there's these other type of significant practical uses of simulated scenarios, and the computing power is more than enough. It's reached the point that it's more than enough to handle really complex simulated environments for these sorts of tasks.
That's right, and there's a huge AI component also behind the digital twins as well, which is part of the optimization and learning through these digital twins. So that we'll see more and more of these systems emerging through a whole range of companies, and I imagine before long it'll be the sort of product that Microsoft will actually license. Maybe it'll become as ubiquitous as Windows one day. Just hope it works. Just hope it works better.
Yeah, just strap on your defunct HoloLens helmet, and then away you go. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. Interesting times going forward, and I guess returning back to the start, I'm going to be amused to see what happens with Elon over the next week or so, and see what other crazy stuff happens in that part of the universe.
Yeah, well, he'll certainly be marching with the beat of his own drum.
As he always does, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, etc. We're grateful for your visits to the website, and hope you enjoy it. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.